Okay, welcome, curious minds out there, to another mind-bending episode of Flying Chariots: The Rise. Today's guest is Teri Lynge Kehl, and Teri brings a cornucopia of interesting stuff with her. She's a demonologist, a member of MUFON since 2010, if I remember right. Besides that, she's an accomplished keynote speaker, an experiencer herself with multiple extraterrestrial experiences. She was featured on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory twice. That's awesome. We might talk about that.
Oh,
Tonight she's with us, and I'm sure this will be a blast. So, Teri, welcome. And before we get deeper into all this interesting stuff, yeah, let us know about yourself. How did you get into all that?
Well, sure, I sure will. So it started when I was a little girl, and I was outside playing with some friends and in the neighborhood, and my brother, and they all decided to go play baseball. And I was a little foofy. I wasn't a baseball girl. So I stayed in the front yard, and I heard my name called, and it was a male. I thought maybe it was my dad. I was 5 years old at the time. And I looked all around the yard. We had a tri-level house, and he wasn't standing on the porch or near the garage or by the big front window. And I thought, well, gee, where is he? So I just, I'm a kid, 5 years old. I ignore it and I keep playing, just hanging out in the front yard by myself. And I hear him call me a second time. And so I look up there again thinking, oh, I must have missed him, and I didn't see him. So again, I'm a little kid. I just keep playing, But then I hear him call me a third time. And I thought, okay, that's bizarre. And I happened to look up in the sky. And when I did, there was a man standing in the sky. And I'm 5. And I said to my little self, I don't think men are supposed to stand in the sky. I don't think that this is right. But I didn't know. What do you know at 5, right? So I'm thinking to myself, something about this seems very wrong. In my 5 years, I haven't seen anything up there in the sky before. And so as I'm looking at this man up there, I'm trying to take him in, but I'm a little perplexed because I don't think men are supposed to be up in the sky standing there like that. And it seems like he's kind of coming down towards me now. And I don't think that's supposed to happen. And I turn around and I run into the house, and he's coming down much closer. And he was a complete man. I mean, I saw his face. I saw that he was wearing a robe, and there was some kind of a sash coming off of his robe that was actually moving in the breeze. And I ran in the house. And I flew up in the front door and I screamed to my father, Daddy, Daddy, there's a man standing in the sky. There's a man standing in the sky. And my father looked at me, and he did not even have a weird look on his face. And he just goes, okay, Teresa doll, go get ready for dinner. Go get washed up. And I went, Daddy, 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 go look. But he wouldn't. He dismissed it completely. And I was so perplexed. I remember literally standing in that hallway thinking, what the heck? You know, you're supposed to go to Daddy, tell Daddy everything, but Daddy is ignoring you now, and I'm supposed to go wash my hands. Okay. So I went and washed my hands, and that was the end of it. And I knew then, if the bizarre happens, don't tell Dad because he don't care. And nobody else in the kitchen. My stepmother was there at the time. She didn't even turn around, and I just thought, what? And I always share this first because it's what happened to me at 5 years old. But I want people listening to your broadcast to understand that if your child comes to you and is telling you something bizarre that your ears have never heard before, do not ignore your child. I can't imagine what may have happened had my father given me the respect of just listening, and he didn't, and so it set me up to not have any oversight in the rest of my life, which ended up being equally as bizarre as I, turned 7 and 10 and then 16, and bizarre things were happening. I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was seeing lights outside coming directly in. And I saw one light coming in one night. I think I was about 7.5. And it was my sister just sat right up in bed. And she had an expressionless face. And then all of a sudden it broke into this very strange smile. And I remember saying to her, because it was traumatizing, Chrissy, stop, stop making that face. You're scaring me. And she just kept staring out the window at the light. And I kept trying to look out the window to see, what is that light that's on her face? And I didn't notice anything. And yet it was this bright light, but I didn't know if, I'm just a little kid. I don't know. It was that the moon? Was it a UFO? What was it? I don't know. When you're a child, you're a child. You do not understand the bizarre. And you can't wrap your mind around it because you don't know that you have to, so life just goes on, and the next day comes, and the next day comes. And, it was when I was 16, I then knew things got really deep. I was having experiences where I'd be at home, doing homework. And we had this one wall that was painted black, and I kept seeing something move through that wall. And I'm like, what? How can something be blacker than black? How can something move on a black wall? How could it be blacker than black? Well, I'm 16 now. I'm not a little kid, okay? And it's got my curiosity up, and I'm watching it out of my peripheral vision, and sure enough, there is something moving on that black wall, and then it comes all the way over to the other side of the wall. And I sit back, like this, looking at it going, what in the heck is that? And my hair is standing up all over my body, and I'm totally freaked. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, so what do? I get up and I run out of the room, And my life started being very much like that. All kinds of oddities were happening. I was seeing dark shadows. I was experiencing things. One night, I was like maybe still 16. I was sleeping, and I felt this hand stroking my face. And that scared me so bad, because is that human? What is it? Who is it? Where is it? I'm sleeping. And so I'm waking up and I'm feeling this hand. And I wake up and sit up in bed, and there is no one in the room with me. And I'm totally spaced at this point, going, oh my God, these things touch you. My God, things can touch you. And the reality of the fact that these other dimensions are now becoming more and more real to me was quite freaky, and I talk to people all the time who tell me they feel like they've been touched. And, today it's another story. Boy, something touches me, I'm rebuking that in the name of Jesus. I'm taking authority over it and casting it out. I don't mess with anything anymore. When I was little, I was abused by everything, it seemed like, and everything frightened me. And then I got a hold of my emotions and fear. And by the time I was in my 20s, I think it was when I was 23. Yeah, 23 was the year that I overcame all fear. And what happened was, again, I'm in my home. I'm now married. I have little kids that are at school. And I maybe I was 24 actually. And I'm on my bed and I'm looking at a book. I'm just reading some book that was there. I don't recall the book. And all of a sudden, something catches my peripheral vision, my left eye, and something is moving. Well, I'm in the house alone. Kids are in kindergarten and first grade or second grade, whatever it was at that time. That I don't remember specifics. But I look up, nothing should have been in the house. And there's a man literally standing in my doorway. This man is someone that I personally knew. And I had been engaged to him, as a matter of fact, when I was a few years younger, and 18 to be exact, and madly, madly in love with this man. And he broke up with me, married somebody else. Yeah. And so, here he is standing in my bedroom, in my doorway. And I look up and I see this full body of a man, just like I can see you right now. But this man was right in front of me. And he was the same handsome man that I had been engaged to, madly in love with, long curly hair to his shoulders. He had on Huarache sandals, a pair of blue jeans. He had on that leather belt. He had a white shirt on, like a white kind of a denim-ish, light blue, whitish. And he's standing there looking at me. And I said to him, John, what are you doing in my house? And he didn't respond. And so I thought to myself, he's not talking, how did he get in here? And then I said, John, what are you doing in my bedroom? And it was at that moment I realized that wasn't John. That was not John at all. And I'm telling you, this was my epitome of fear moment of my life. And this thing that was standing there looking like John, and let me just interject this, that's called a familiar spirit. I didn't know that at the time. And it was there, full-bodied apparition, took on the likeness of someone I knew, who was still alive, by the way, not a dead person. He was still alive. These spirits have power. And they play on what's familiar in your eye, what's familiar in your mind. So the battleground is the right and left ear. So here I am looking at it, talking to it, acknowledging its presence. Don't do that, okay? Rebuke them. Don't get involved with these full-bodied apparitions. They're very strong. They are there for a purpose, and it isn't to your benefit. They're there for possession. They're there for a lot of things that I can honestly tell you now I know that at that time I did not know, but it was so frightening. I was, you've heard the term gripped with fear. It is a true saying. I was gripped with fear as a face emerged from where John's face was. This other face started coming right out of his cheek area, and the body went tornadic. I am telling you, before the God of this universe, this is true. And I did not know that they had that kind of power. I had no clue. So this thing was going tornadic, but this face was coming out of the tornadic form. And I'm just standing there with my eyes this big. I couldn't move. I could hardly breathe. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm alone in the house, broad daylight, but I'm scared out of my wits. And it's looking at me with this horrifying face, and I'm frozen in fear. And in my left ear, I hear a voice very calmly say to me, see his name. And I thought, whose name? And I was a Christian. And I thought, oh, you mean see the Lord's name? Because I couldn't think or anything. I couldn't comprehend a single thought. I was so absorbed and enveloped in fear. And I wanted to scream out the name of Jesus, but I couldn't because I couldn't think. And so I heard this voice say in my ear, see his name. And I was like, I can't remember his name. I can't remember the Lord's name. I can't remember it. I can't remember it. That's true, powerful fear. And that is the fear that these demonic forces have over people that are very real. And this is why, as a matter of fact, I became a demonologist, simply because I knew, hey, if that could happen to me, that could happen to you. And if it happens to you, I am here for you. I'm here to help you. Because, man, I went through it and I have never experienced anything as powerful as that demon. That demon had, I mean, I don't know. It was almost like dealing with Satan himself, you know, the embodiment of a very powerful demonic force. And so as I was there and I had heard this, see the name, I kept thinking as I'm watching this tornadic thing, and this is all happening within seconds, remember, I'm looking at this thing being more and more horrified as the face is coming towards me, not that close to me, but it's forming and I'm seeing it. And, you know, the fear is just, you know, building up. And then when I heard that voice, I started going, I don't know, I can't remember his name. And then I went, I think it starts with a J. I think there's a J, and I saw the J. And so in my mind's eye, I pictured the J. And then I was like, maybe there's an E, maybe there's an E in there, you know, a vowel. And I'm like, so then I see the E. And now I see J-E. Fear had gripped me like nobody's business. And J-E didn't mean anything to me. And then I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I think there could be an S. Maybe there's an S. And then I see the S form right in front of my eyes. Unbelievable how this happened. And all of a sudden I see J-E-S. And I went, Jesus! And I screamed it so loud with everything I had within me. I saw, and this is the part that, hang on, this is hard to believe, but I'm telling you before God, this is true. I'll give an account for my words when I die. As I screamed out that name, my body laid on the bed back, but my spirit rose up out of my body, and there was an actual separation right there. And I saw the back of my own head. I saw the spirit back of my own head. Our spirits are identical to our human forms. So when I see somebody in the spirit, I'm seeing them as they actually are in the body. They are kind of like little minis of us, but very, very powerful. And I saw the back of my own head, which again is like, are you kidding me? That's the back of my own. How many people see the back of their own head? You don't. And I realized that. And I had long blonde hair at the time. And I thought, oh my God, it's me. You know, and so just that was overwhelming. And I freaked out on top of being absolutely scared beyond belief. And then all of a sudden I see the hand of my spirit go like this to that thing. And I don't even know how my spirit cast that out in the name of Jesus, because at that moment, I didn't understand all that. I was, you know, just 24. And all of a sudden it was like, out in the name of Jesus. And this spirit, oh, you know, I pray that no one deals with these things, but it had so much power. It whipped itself around now. The tornadic event stopped. It whipped itself around, went right out the door of my bedroom, down the hallway, and slammed the bedroom door to my children's bedroom. Both boys shared a bedroom with a bunk. And I then was released from the power of this fear. I got up and I ran outside, and I'm standing outside in St. Petersburg, Florida, on my front porch, jumping up and down, thinking, oh my God, what was that? Oh my God. You know, I mean, I literally was trying to understand what had just happened to me, and I couldn't, and I didn't. I did not. And so I thought to myself, oh, that thing went in the children's bedroom. Are you kidding me? I've got to go in there. I can't let the kids come home. I can't. And it was like, you know, they would get brought home any minute. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, me, the wimp of the century, now has to go back into that house. I'm scared out of my gourd. What the heck was that? I've got to go back in that house now and get that thing out of the bedroom. Oh, and so talk about a dilemma and a conundrum. So I open the front door and it's broad daylight and I'm flicking on the living room light. And I'm like, oh boy, are you a wimp or what? I was so scared. I was literally shaking, going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to go back in there. I have to. It can't be there for the babies, And so I walk in to the living room. Then I walk up. We had this sunken living room, and then I walked up into the dining area. And then I walked into the hall area, and I'm not kidding you. Everything in me wanted to turn around and run. I was scared beyond belief. And every step I took very slowly, flicking on every single light I could so that extra light was in the house, which, like, what good did that do, right? But something in my mind told me I needed more light. And finally, I get to the hallway and I make a right. And I go down there and I put my hand on the door and I'm like, oh, God, please help me. God, please help me. And I have to tell you, all of a sudden, Dustin, no kidding. This is just unbelievable. This power came on me like white on rice, like nobody's business. I had so much power all of a sudden. I couldn't even understand it. But my hand on that doorknob was like I had just walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and I was scared out of my freaking wits. But when I finally got to that door and I put my hand on that door, it was like something came over me, and I was like, oh, you are going. I mean, I could not wait to get in there and deal with this demon. And I'm like, who am I? What happened? What just happened to that wimp, Teri? And I opened that door and I went in there and I was screaming, I cast you out in the name of Jesus. And there was nothing in there. I was standing in an empty room. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, get out. How dare you? Get out of this house. And I'm just taking authority over it like nobody's business. And I don't even understand with my own head what I'm doing. I had no clue. Something powerful came on me, and I call that the Holy Spirit. And I was just like, whoa, you've got to be kidding me. And I had the power, and that thing was gone. And then I'm walking around the house like, where did it go? It slammed that door so hard, it sounded like the door was going to come off the hinges. It just was a huge slam. And I thought, wow, that thing had power, but I have more power. And at that point, I knew I have more power. So then when things would attack me after my 24th year, I was able to take it in and go, what the heck is this? And start dealing with things, And when I tell you dealing with things, I mean, that was like, in the earlier 70s. But by 1979, when I saw my first craft and my first extraterrestrial, that was another oh my God moment. The full-bodied apparition and that craft. So what happened in that situation was I had taken an evening position. I had been working for Honeywell Aerospace as a secretary in Clearwater, Florida. And I got laid off from the Minuteman project, and we were waiting for a Gemini project to happen. And they very frequently, Honeywell would lay off all their people. My mother was in management at Honeywell, and my other sister was also my sister Chris was a secretary as well. And so I had been laid off and I was waiting to be rehired. So I took this part-time job in Clearwater, and I lived in St. Petersburg, which is about a 25 minute drive between places. And I left that place at about 2 o'clock at night. When I got my shift was over, I left and I was still in my uniform and I was heading home. I'm in this little Honda Civic, got a little window, little Honda Civics are as cute as all get out. But so I'm driving this thing about 80 miles an hour at night too, because back in those days, it was the 70s. And so I wanted to get home real quick. And I come down 28th Street North, which is right in my neighborhood. I'm going to make a left on 32nd Avenue. And as I'm getting close to 32nd, there's this one street called Morris Street. And along Morris Street, which is just one, kind of block down from 32nd, is a railroad track. I've seen that railroad track a zillion times, okay? And here I come up to it now, and there is something between the two rails of the railroad tracks hovered. And I'm looking at that thing as I'm driving my Civic closer and closer and closer. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I'm like, it's floating. It's floating. Railroad cars don't float. Men don't stand in the sky. Railroad cars don't float. And I'm like, what the heck? And now I'm looking for the wheels. I don't see wheels. And I'm like, what? And I slapped my face and I went, did I fall asleep? Am I having an accident? Did I have an accident? Is something wrong with me? And I'm slapping my face going, are you awake? I'm like, am I hallucinating here? What the heck is that? I do not believe in extraterrestrials. I do not believe in UFOs. I'm a Christian. I don't believe that stuff. That's not a part of my life. I was on the worship team. I was a teacher for the children. No. And so as I get closer to it, I'm like, what the heck? Gorgeous. See the one right behind you? It was very, very similar to that, almost identical. And it was beautiful. It had a blue light going through the center of it. And back in 1979, we didn't have fiber optics, and that was a blue fiber optic color. It was absolutely stunning, which we didn't even have on the planet at that time. And so, here I am looking at this thing, and I'm like, wow, is that a UFO? And all of a sudden my car shuts off. And I'm like, what? The Civic had never had any trouble until that very moment. And I'm like, oh, that's convenient. Now the car's off. And I'm rolling because I haven't even moved my foot. I'm like mesmerized. I got my hand on the wheel and I'm looking at this thing going, oh my God, it's beautiful. Silver. And it looked so beautiful with that blue light. And it was just hovered there. It wasn't moving, nothing, And now my car is coming up to it. I stop about 190 feet, just under 200 feet from this craft. The car stops and I'm staring at it just with my hands on the, on the steering wheel going through this little Honda Civic thing. And I'm like, man, are you for real? And I said right out loud, God, why would you have me look at something like this? Why am I experiencing this? I don't believe in this crap. It's comic book entertainment. This isn't real. And I'm like, Teri, whatever you do, don't get out of the car. So what happens? My hand goes right to the car door thing, opens the car. I don't even really remember how I got out of the car. But now I'm white knuckle holding the door jamb of this little Honda Civic, and I'm looking at this thing going, oh my God, it looks like it's alive. It looks like that ain't steel. I'm looking for a rivet. I'm looking for doors. I'm looking for windows. I'm looking for something that I can identify. The mind always wants to make sense of things that you're looking at. When you can't make sense of something, it's like Boggleville. What the heck? Where am I? And what is that? And so then as I'm looking at it, all of a sudden I'm in front of my car. And I'm like, how did I get here? And I don't remember letting go of the door jamb. And now I'm standing in front of the car. And I'm staring at this thing. I don't know how long I'm staring at it. And all of a sudden, this blue light comes from over here. over to the right. And to the right of this area is a huge field. And in the field is another craft that's landed. But I didn't know that because I'm looking at the one in front of me that's so beautiful. And it just seems to be comforting me somehow. And I'm like, how does that happen? And Lord, why in the heck am I seeing this garbage? And now all of a sudden I'm changing my whole thinking pattern. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I hear the Lord literally say to me, Teri, there is so much that you do not understand yet. And my response was, yeah, no kidding. If this could be, then I don't know anything. I mean, this is otherworldly stuff. And the next thing I know, I see this blue light. And as I look over to this blue light, I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And I look down and I'm 2 feet off the ground. And I'm like, how did I get 2 feet off the ground? How am I standing here and I'm 2 feet off the ground? And it didn't make any sense to me. And then out of the blue light, as I'm looking back at the blue light, comes this tall, white, extraterrestrial being. And I'm telling you, just like the day I saw that full-bodied apparition, it just gripped me. I was like, oh, and the head was large, very thin little neck, long extended arms, very thin torso, thin legs. And I'm looking away from it going, oh no, no, no. I can't look at that. That thing is ugly. It's got these eyes. It's the head, no mouth, no nose, no ears, no hair. It's just this big, huge white thing. And the blue light is actually coming through it. Now, have you ever put your thumb up to a flashlight and look through? You can see bone and nail and things. He didn't have bones. And I'm like, I don't see bones. What the heck is that? And I'm like, oh no, Lord, you've got to be kidding. And I remember I must have said, you've got to be kidding that night, probably 60 times. I kept saying, you've got to be kidding me. And I was fearful, but I was also curious because I didn't have that same fear I used to have. I had a different kind of fear with this because it was totally otherworldly, but I didn't want to look at it. And so all of a sudden I'm being moved towards it and I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, oh, I'm not walking. I'm being moved. And as I get near him, he's so frightening to me. I think I fainted. I don't know what happened because I fainted and I was out. The next thing I know, I remember I had seen this other craft that was fully landed on the field. The next thing I know, I'm in that craft, or at least I think it's that craft. I don't think it's this craft. I think it's that craft, but I'm not sure. And I'm in there and I wake up all of a sudden and I'm totally freaked. And what I see was like nothing you could have even imagined. The floor of this place, the walls, the ceiling, and everything in it had a glow of white, soft white light. In 1979, we didn't have soft white lights that glowed really beautifully, and they were not offensive to the eyes at all. They were soft, and everything was illuminated, and everything looked like it was sucked down, like there was a seat like that. I was on a table and I realized I was laying down and I thought, I'm laying down. And then I went to pick my head up like this from the lay down position. And I noticed I still had my uniform on and I had these little beige sandals on. And I remember going, okay, I'm okay, but I'm laying on this table. And now I see, didn't know at the time, 2 gray extraterrestrials down by the foot of the table by my ankles. And one has these 3 fingers that I can see, and he's touching my ankle. And I'm like, oh, what is that? What is that? And that's all I can think of. And I'm like, oh my God, where is that ugly where's that thing, that other ugly white thing? And the next thing I know, boom, he's right here. And I'm laying down and he's standing right there looking down at me. And I look up into these large eyes and it's like, oh no, what? And he says to me without a mouth, he's talking. That didn't make any sense. He says to me, we will not harm you. We will not take you. And I'm looking up at this thing with no mouth that's talking to me, and I can hear him with both ears. And I'm like, what? Take me? Take me where? And I got so upset that they even could take you. I remember, boom, I was out again. And the next thing I remember, I must have fainted or he put me out. Now I knew. I know now. I didn't know then. I did not faint. He controlled that moment. Extraterrestrials have the ability to literally absorb the entire scenario of where you are. And they are able to control things that happen in your presence when they are present with you. So they shut my car off. They rose me up off the ground. They caused me to black out. They caused me then to black out again. Didn't know it at the time. I thought I was fainting, and so the next thing I know, I'm back in front of my car and I'm staring at the hovered UFO. But something happened to me. I wasn't the same person that I was that went into that craft. Something inside of me happened, and to this day, I really don't know that I can totally explain it. I mean, I'm going to be 72 in 2 months. And that happened to me when I was, 27. And that's funny. Those two numbers are reverse, 72 and 27. But anyway, that just now occurred to me. I was there looking at this thing and I started screaming, don't leave me here. Don't leave me. Please take me with you. Don't leave me here. And I said, shut up, Teri, what are you saying? And then I said it again, right out loud, right out of my mouth. My own lips were forming this. Don't leave me, please, God, please don't leave me here. I hate it here. I don't want to be here. Please take me with you. I don't want to be here anymore. And then again, I said to myself, would you shut up? What are you saying? You have two little wonderful boys at home. And I mean wonderful. They were adorable. I mean, really adorable. And I'm like, what am I saying? I would never leave my children. And then I said it again. And I kept begging them to take me. And nothing happened. I'm just screaming at this, beautiful ship with the blue light still going around it. That one, nothing had changed with that one. And I felt so connected to that ship. And I thought, why am I so connected to this ship? Why am I begging them? Nothing made sense. And so as I stood there, and I tell you this before God's throne, this is truth, I was totally freaked out. All of a sudden, the ship goes like that. And I mean, between a blink, it happened so fast. And I'm standing there enveloped in this moment with this ship and that other thing. And I couldn't hear a sound. I didn't hear crickets. The trees, palm trees, beautiful palm trees, nothing was moving in the breeze. I mean, this was a quiet, enveloped night. I was in something there. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I thought, isn't this weird? However, on 30th Avenue, there was a light hanging, red, yellow, and green. And I could hear the click, click, click of the red, yellow, and green. That was on 30th Avenue. And I'm like, what? And then I'm looking around looking for the other cars. Where are the other cars? Where are the other people? It's only 2:15 at night, right? I mean, it can't be that late, there's got to be somebody around. There's no dogs barking, nothing. And I'm just standing there. This thing is flipped and I'm starting to notice all this stuff. And I couldn't understand it. And so then as I'm looking at it, I continue to cry out, please, God, please don't leave me here. Take me with you. And no response. I'm not hearing anything. God's not talking to me. I'm just standing there begging to go, which didn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden it shot up about 500, maybe 1,000 feet. Who could know? I'm assuming. And it stopped. And I'm like, oh, good, they're going to take me. It was like, oh my God, they're going to come back. But they didn't. It just stopped. And then, as if that night couldn't have gotten more bizarre, I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? Underneath the bottom of this craft comes this huge fireball, and it's just, you can actually hear the fire of this fireball, and it just comes right out of the bottom of the craft. And now I'm looking at a craft and a fireball, and I'm thinking, what the heck? This can't get weirder. Come on, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? And as that was happening, I don't know how long I stood there looking at it, but then all of a sudden, they both left instantaneously, so fast. They took off between a blink. I don't know how that happens. Zero noise. And they go towards the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm standing in the middle of the street now. My feet are on the street. I'm looking around. I put my hands on my head and I go, you got to be kidding me. What just happened? And I thought, I got to talk to somebody who knows me, somebody who loves me. I got to talk to somebody. I'm not going home, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go to my mom's, who lives literally 2 minutes from me. So I get in my car. It starts right up. I'm like, oh, okay. So the Civic is working. So I go to my mom's. I knock on the door. Her husband comes to the door and he said, Teri, what are you doing here so early in the morning? And I'm like, morning? It's the middle of the night. It's only 2:30, dude, and I'm like, because I thought this happened within just a few seconds. It was now 4:00 in the morning. I had 2 hours of missing time, but I didn't know I had missing time because I didn't know about missing time. So I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, he's so tired. He didn't even know what time it is. And I'm like, just get my mother, and she comes down the hall and she's like, who's at the door? And he goes, it's Teri. And she goes, well, let her in. So I go in and I run up to my mother and I said to her, put the coffee pot on. We got to talk. I've had an experience you are never going to believe. I said, but I'm going to tell it to you from top to bottom, Mom. My God, I am freaked out. And she put the coffee on. We sat there with our coffee. Her husband brought it to us. And we're on the couch and we're talking. And I'm telling her everything I told you, except I was so blown away by it at the time. And she's just sitting there like this, listening and shaking her head, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, dear God, she's going to call the White Jackets. I'm in trouble. She's going to turn me in. And I'm like, oh, dear God, help me. If you've ever helped me, help me now. My mother's going to turn me in, because she's not even making any responses or anything, and I'm blown away. And so then I swear, she's looking at me and I finally stop and go, what do you think of that? And she says to me, as she pats my leg, it's okay, Teri. I've seen them too. And I back up, I jump off the couch, I scream in my mother's face, what the hell? Oh, what the heck? I did say that other word though. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You didn't prepare me for this. You never told me about this. Why would you do that to me? I'm 27 years old. How could you have done this to me and not shared this with me before? What am I supposed to do with all this? And I'm screaming in my mother's face. I'm this close to her face. And she's like, calm down, calm down, calm down. And I said, well, what the heck happened to you? And so then she tells me she owned a houseboat My mother was in management, I told you, with Honeywell, a very well paid woman. And, they would rent their house out for 3 months out of the year. That was her vacation. And she would go out on her houseboat and tool around in the Gulf of Mexico, where ISOs would shoot up out of the water. She never told me this. Shoot up out of the water, hover over the water, and take off. And they were green cylinders, she told me. And her husband is right there going, you know, and I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And so after all of that, I finally go home. 29 years later, well, let me just say, when I left the house that night, she said, Teri, I want to tell you something. Don't ever talk about this. She said, because if you do, no one from Honeywell is ever going to rehire you. You are done. It's a done deal. Nobody is going to want to hire you if they hear that you've had an experience like this. So, of course, I'm thinking my mother knows what she's talking about. She's no dummy. So I never said anything. 29 years later, my mother, was diagnosed with cancer and she was dying. And in 2008, for the first time in my life, I'm sitting on a couch in St. Petersburg, Florida at my home, and I'm looking at a Town and Country magazine. And all of a sudden I hear a voice in my left ear, which is not bizarre to me. I've had that happen my whole entire life. And it says to me, go to the computer, report your sighting. 29 years later, just like it happened yesterday. I'm like, okay, I get up, I go to the computer and I type in, gee, how do you do that? Report a UFO. Up comes MUFON. My first introduction to MUFON. So I report it, and then I'm thinking when I'm reporting it, I better not tell them about that extraterrestrial thing. They're going to think I'm a weirdo, and I better not. And so I didn't. I just told all the other stuff, but I didn't mention him. And so James Carrion, the executive director of MUFON, calls me and says, what the heck? He's like, tell me all about it. Is you sure that you're telling me everything? Is there something else you want to tell me? Almost like he knew. And I was like, oh, I'm not saying it. I'm not going to say anything. And so I didn't. So I just filed. I said, no, sir, nothing else happened. Nope, I'm all good, And so I didn't want him calling white jackets, So then I forget about it. 2 years later, I'm on the same couch in the same house looking at the new Town and Country. I swear to God, that's a fact. And I hear that voice in my ear say, go to the computer, revisit your sighting account. Just like it happened last night, I went, okay. I get up, I go to the computer, I bring it up. What was the name of that thing? Muffin or something? And so I look and I find my file cabinet. I find MUFON. Oh yeah, MUFON. So I go to MUFON. It says become a field investigator. I click OK. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Why would I want to be a field investigator? And I was led to do it. And I did it. Passed my test, passed the background test, check. And now I'm on the board of directors.
Wow.
And I'm the director of memberships, and I'm the consultant to the MUFON University. So I'm revamping how we do everything with another gal that's on my team, Mindy Talkfest, amazing girl. And so, got any questions?
Yeah, no, just that was quite the start there. My God, it's like a rabbit hole full of craziness that has happened to you.
That's my life. Yeah.
Wow.
Life.
And the fact that even yeah, so say that,
and that's this much of it. I mean, there's so much. Unbelievable.
Yes. Well, I was just say you shared a lot there. No, that's awesome. Again, how
doesn't everybody do that?
Yeah, I do, but you have quite the story. And then the fact that MUFON found your story very interesting and they were very curious and finding out more of what's going on. But yeah, do you think that you might have some like a reason why they're choosing you to show up to you? The fact that like the beginning of your story kind of remind me of the jinn, that kind of weird entity that kind of can show up in flesh, or even kind of the skinwalker type of creature that kind of can shapeshift into whatever being you feel comfortable around until it gets closer and it freaks you out even more. And then hearing this like tornado spirit thing with its face coming at you, kind of in my own mind, kind of like Tasmanian devil, you know,
Like a,
you know,
like a-
the
like a
cartoon,
vor-
like
like a vortex. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they do. I have had a skinwalker. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'll be teaching on it in one of my podcasts, but we had one here at the house. But the reason I think that that happened was because once I got into MUFON and I started teaching, training and doing meetings around the state of Florida, my oldest brother from my mother's first marriage ended up coming to one of my meetings in Satellite Beach, Florida. I was in St. Petersburg. He was in Satellite Beach. We're in the same area, but opposite ends of the state. And he says to me, well, Teri, I have never said this to anybody, but when I was a little boy, 9 years old, I had a craft come. And I said, what? You're kidding. Did you ever tell mom this? And he goes, no, I never told anybody. My brother was in the Air Force. He was a pilot, and he never did talk about any of this. And, he never wanted anybody to know about it, because when you talk about these things, or when you did, there was such a giggle factor and such a unbelievable factor to it back in those days that you could be fired, you could lose your military finances and all of that. So then in 2012, I'm with my son, and he is, we're on a mother-son date night, and I won't go into the whole thing because I know we got to be limited on time here, but he and I have an experience where 3 lights morphed into a triangle and went down into Sawgrass Lake. And so my brother, my mother, my son, and myself have all had experiences. And so it covers a gambit of 70 years in my family. So for 70 years, I can relate to something that has happened just with the extraterrestrials. The paranormal is a whole different ball of wax, and that is unbelievable. My mother was very heavy into astrology and all kinds of woo-woo. And that's probably where a lot of it was attacking me, because my mother was into all kinds of craziness when I was a child. So, when the parents are into craziness, the children are going to eventually be affected by that. And I hope your listeners are listening to that. Be careful, people, what you do, because your children will become attacked by, these different realms. They have power. They are real. They can happen, and often do. And like I said earlier, a lot of people don't talk about these things because, if you kind of feel like if you don't talk about it, it isn't going to be as crazy or as bad. But it still happens, and it's quite frightening. And I do think everybody that's ever been alive has experienced some form of either demonic activity, spiritual activity, paranormal activity, extraterrestrial activity, angelic. I've also been involved in the angelic realm. And it's a whole plethora of events that can and do happen to us humans, And I mean, if you even read the book of Genesis and the Nephilim, I don't know how familiar you are all with that, but we've been set up. I mean, we're here, we're on a planet where a lot of really crazy things happen. And, like it says in Revelation, in the last days, knowledge will increase, and boy, hasn't it? And now we're starting to see all these different dimensions and all these different things that have been buried literally under the sands of time coming to fruition, coming up from the grave. And, things are being known that we've never known before, or in 5G. And we're open to so many experiences we would not have been open to before. So, it's a real mixed bag out there.
Yeah, man, like I said before, a life full of high strangeness. That's crazy.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the extraterrestrial healing.
Yeah. Like you said, we're running out of time, but I have a few more questions.
Yeah.
We have to leave in the first part of your story, the part when you were still very young.
Mhm.
Some of the events you told us about reminds me a lot of out-of-body experiences and also sleep paralysis, stuff like that. What do you think about that?
I do believe in out of body experiences. I've had them, and I have had sleep paralysis. But what happened to me when I was young, that wasn't that. But I did experience those things later in life, and I was not looking for these things. That's another thing I like people to understand. You don't have to be looking for these things. The universe seems to have a way of knowing who you are more so than maybe what you might even know who you are. And we get attracted to things because of who we are. And as we are growing, we're learning about who we are and what we will become. And I do believe we are all quickly becoming what we will forever be in eternity. This is a learning process here. We're here to learn. We're here to understand. And it's a process. It starts from birth and goes to the grave, you know. I need to plug my computer in. It looks like it wants to die. And so, you know, there's many things that we will experience that will take us to other levels of understanding. There are many levels of understanding. And this is why so many of us don't get along, is because some of us are here, some of us are here, and you cannot understand this person's experiences if you haven't had them yourself. So there's no way to relate to this person or this person or that person. And we're all in such different places. We're spiritual beings on a human journey. And it's a difficult journey. It's an interesting one, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I guess so. So the very first part of your story, I think you said you were 5 years old and you saw this, if I remember.
Man.
Yes,
Mhm.
like some kind of shadow figure or hooded figure.
Oh, no, he was 100%. I saw a human man standing in the sky.
Okay. What do you think with all you know now, with all you experience now, with all you've heard now, I guess you've did a lot of you've heard a lot of witness testimonials and stuff like that. What do you think that was?
I still don't know. I would like to think it was the Lord, it was Yeshua, but I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if it just frightened me because I was a little child. Why would he do that? So it couldn't have been him, you know. But I mean, in my mind, I have to think it was some realm coming to me. I don't necessarily really understand reincarnation, and I don't necessarily believe in it because I can't wrap my mind around it. How could we keep coming back and back and back and back? What would be the reason? But many people do believe that, and it might be because I'm here and somebody else is here and I don't get it yet. You know, I don't understand it yet. I'm not saying I know everything because I know I don't. The more I know, the less I know I know. And, you know, a lot of people seem to understand that. So I was wondering, could it have been something coming at me to tell me something? Why would you come at a 5-year-old? So I can only think it had to be the demonic realm. And I've had an experience with the Lord who said, "You are my chosen child." And I remember saying to him, "Chosen for what?" And what I was chosen for was to tell what I know, tell my experiences, tell what happened to me. And that is why I do what I do. So was something coming at me because it knew I was chosen and it was an attack from a very young age? I can honestly say before God, I don't know. I don't know. It isn't clear.
I have my theories on that. I've not too long ago I've had an interview with a young woman from Austria. And she told me the story of how she was in church with her parents. The parents were religious, but not very religious. But they went to church, though, every Sunday and they sat in church. And suddenly she said she saw a and it reminds me of your story with the UFO. She saw a fireball appear on the ceiling of the church, a big fireball.
Mm.
She said she
Mhm.
had the feeling really it was burning. She couldn't feel the heat, but she saw the flames and everything. It was a fireball. It was just there. It was just there. It was just there for her. Nobody else have seen it.
Right.
It came
Right.
through the roof, went out through the roof again. And then I'm not too positive if I'm right about that, but I think she said years later, she was sitting in her apartment on her couch, and then suddenly another fireball came through the window. And this fireball, suddenly, she said she saw herself in the fireball, and she saw herself another time standing right next to the door or something. I don't remember, right? And she saw herself sitting on the
Mm.
couch.
Oh,
So it was a very strange account. And
wow.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and I heard stories just like that. I heard stories like, since I have this podcast 100 times. And
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think, this is my theory, I do think that some people are chosen to be tested out,
Mhm.
test their reaction. How do they react to stuff like that? What do they think
Mhm.
afterwards about that?
Yeah.
Maybe someone or something is testing these kids out. When
Yeah.
her first experience was also when she was a kid in church. Maybe something or someone tested her out, tested her reaction, tested her feelings, her emotions while it happens, and test her for something. You said maybe, or someone told you you're the chosen one. Maybe some people are chosen to experience that kind of stuff, or they are being prepared for something that will happen in the future, maybe. So this is my theory. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just too
That's a
strange.
good theory, dude.
Yeah, it's
That's a
just
great theory.
too strange to not have a purpose. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
too
sure.
strange, too much high strangeness that it's just there to scare you, or something, because there's no reason to scare you off, or make you.
Teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teach you something.
Yeah, I think it's a test to test your strength, your mental strength, test your reaction to your emotions, and maybe if you're past the test, you're, yeah, you're really chosen for something maybe happening, maybe even after you're gone or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's just a theory.
I do believe that. I like the way you think. It's so clear. But
It is.
because you've heard so many stories, and I really like the way you're thinking, because I do believe I've read actually in the scriptures, many are called, but few are chosen.
Right.
And when he told me I was chosen, I thought, okay, chosen for what? Which he didn't really give me any understanding on, but he handed me something which my eyes could not see, but I felt. And remember when I told you with the full-bodied apparition, when I finally dealt with my fear and put my hand on that doorknob, boom, it was like, I am not the same little girl that ran out of this house. And it's just like when I went into that, craft. I was not the same little afraid girl that went into that craft. With each experience, I do see more power, more knowledge, more understanding. I can grasp things differently. And other people, if you haven't experienced it, you're not really going to grasp it like I am. And each one of us, like your girl that you were just talking about with the fireball, I love that. I love that. I'd love to know her because, she obviously was experienced something that was for her, because like I said, we're all different. We're all in different places on this walk, but we're all walking in the same direction. No one gets out of here alive. We're all going to die. It doesn't matter who you are or what position you hold or who you think you are, you're dying. And when that does happen, I believe we stand before a very holy and powerful God who then reenacts with us, what was it all about? Tell me what you saw. How did you feel about this? I did this. This is how you reacted. And we'll probably say, you did that. I didn't know you did that. We're probably going to find out then what we cannot know now. Because if we could know it, you know. So I believe that we will find these things out. And I feel sad and sorry for the people on the planet who can't go there in their mind and see that there is a much greater power guiding us through this process called life. We're here. We're all living. You're here with me now. I'm 72, in May. And I don't know how old you guys are, probably in your 20s, but I'll be gone way before you. Okay. And maybe I'll be there waiting for you when you come through and say, hey, remember that time, and remember how we talked about this and we didn't have a clue, but man, wasn't that fun? So I kind of look at it like that. Whereas other people are like the atheists. Oh no, God doesn't exist. There's nothing else. When you die, you die. It's all worms and death and dirt. And I'm like, oh, good for you. That might be your future. It's not mine.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the compliment. I'm turning 44 in September.
Oh.
And I'm almost 40. So
yeah. So
what? Really,
yeah,
you do really look.
We're drinking the ambrosia.
Yeah, but we're short on time now, and I have one last question, if you allow. The girl I was referring to, she also told me that later on in her life, and I don't know if it's connected to the things you deal with somehow, because you told us you're working as a demonologist. She saw hooded figures somewhere out there in the woods. I don't recall where exactly.
She saw what? What did she see?
Hooded figures, not shadow figures, hooded figures.
Oh,
hood.
shadow figures.
Hood.
Yeah.
They had,
okay.
They were hooded.
Oh, yes.
And ropes on, something like that. And very strange, like from out of a movie, she said. She saw these hooded figures walking around, observing her, but didn't come close. But they did sense something out that caused fear in her. She was afraid of them. She knew there's danger ahead. So she left the place, but she said, like you said, it was just like they were really there, like real persons. But it wasn't persons in costumes or so. They were there, she said, and she sensed fear and danger. She left. It didn't follow her. And I hear about these these hooded figures all the time when I talk to people. Do you know?
Yes.
Do you know what's happening with these guys? Who are these hooded figures?
I do. And, this is an interesting story that I do share frequently. When Yeshua was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and there was a demoniac that came in, and he threw himself into the fire and was rolling around, and he was acting all bizarre, foaming at the mouth. He was having an attack of some sort. And Yeshua said to him, who are you? And he said, we are Legion. One human can be possessed by a legion of demons. What this girl was seeing when she was there and feeling that there was something coming at her that was not good and she needed to remove herself was these figures. These demons are hooded. They can be very much like that. I've seen that many times. And they'll surround a person and possess a person. You can also have spirits. There's familiar spirits. There's all kinds of spirits out there, spirits of drugs, spirit of death. There's all kinds of things, addictions and depressions and all these things. And they are always hooded. So when she's seeing these, she's seeing things that could attack her. They're sending fear her way. Whenever we get fear coming at us, get away or rebuke it and, walk away from it, because it is your gut, your heart, your spirit telling you, get out of here. This is danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. Get out. You guys are too young to know Will Robinson, but that was something that they used to say in the 50s on TV, or 60s, something like that. You weren't even born, but it's just it's a warning.
It kind of reminds me of Emily Rose, the exorcism of her, because she had about, I think, 7 demons inside of her when she was confronted by
You can
the
have
priest.
thousands. You can have
Yeah.
thousands.
Hmm.
And here's
Right,
the thing. As a demonologist, I can deliver you from all 1,000 of them, but they have to become your enemy, not your friend. I can't pull a demon out of you that you like. In other words, if you really like cocaine, I can't get that demon out of you. If you really love drugs, I can't get those demons out of you. If you love alcohol, you have to want to get rid of that. Let's say it was just smoking. It was an addiction to nicotine. I can't pull that out of you if you're not ready to release it. So
Sure.
you have power to hold or release anything that can come to you in this life. And this life is about clarity and bringing things into us. How do we bring things into us? We see them and desire them. Once they come in, they're right here. This is the battleground right here between your right and left ear. This is the battleground. And whatever you bring in there and you say, oh, I like that. Oh, I love this, you know, be it cocaine, be it heroin, be it alcohol, doesn't matter what it is. Oh, I like this. You have now made that your friend. Guess where that resides? Within you.
Mm-hmm.
The demonologist can only pull out of you what you want to release to me, and I'll
Sure.
send it. You know,
Sure.
I'll get rid of it. But most people only want to give you a little bit. They don't want to get rid of it all. You know, they want to hang on to some of that stuff. They kind of like it. Those demons have become your friends. And this is why, you know, Jesus, Yeshua, will say to you, depart from me. I never knew you, you workers of iniquity. Because, you know, we're going to die. I guarantee you're going to die, as I will. And we will give an account. And that's when we'll see, how do we do? The report card comes due at that point, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, oh boy, Lord, you know, I want to do good.
Yeah. No, I thought that Emily Rose's case was pretty unique because she even said that Mary came to her too. And I don't know if it was a dream or a vision that said that she could like, you know, give her mercy and give her death, or unless you want to like inherit these demons and show the world that there is a devil that's out there and is working amongst us. And she chose to be, and the fact that she chose to like, okay, I'm going to show the world that these demons do exist, you know. And then again, that choice factor that you just mentioned, like she wasn't going to be saved, even if like they were working on her. But again, that the case was very extreme, and then she died of her condition.
And the reason she died, because I know the story, Emily Rose, is because, okay, and of course, I don't know what your viewers are going to say. This is deep. We're going to go deep here for a minute. The seat of Satan is within the Vatican. And God is a jealous God. Our God loves us so much, he wants nothing else. Just like if you loved a woman, would you want her sleeping with someone else? I don't think so. And, you know, our God is very jealous of us. He doesn't want us giving worship and power to images. What is the image of Mary? People are worshiping her. They're doing it. They should not be doing that. That is wrong. You should not be worshiping Mary and praying to her and all this. There's only one God, and his name is not Mary. So he doesn't, you know, she did not release that demon. She accepted that demon, probably through something like Catholicism or whatever. And I know I'm stepping on toes out there, okay, because the demonic realm is thick. Satan is alive and well, and he has got the blinders over half the planet. Trust me when I tell you, he is smarter than the average bear. He's been around for centuries, eons, from the beginning, before the Nephilim, you know, before the pyramids, before the hieroglyphs, before all of it. He has been here and he has watched. He is not stupid, and he is powerful. When he comes into our presence, he is powerful. That's why some of these full-bodied apparitions, do not speak to them. Get them out immediately. Don't even acknowledge them. Start rebuking them in the name of Jesus. Even if you don't really know Jesus that well, start rebuking them in the name of Jesus, because they have so much power. Satan is real. And this is why some of these people end up dying going through these, demonic deliverances. I can tell you, I don't play with the demons like you see on TV where people go into the haunted houses and, oh, who are we dealing with? Oh, let's see, where'd you come from? Who are you? When did you die? Blah, 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 blah. I don't speak to them. When I come in, they're leaving. This place is going to be cleansed. And that is the end of that story. And it's never up for discussion for me because they have power that can possess someone in that group. And that someone in that group can actually now really have issues. And I know we all love going out and doing that. I know how much fun it was. I've done it myself. I had to stand in the mirror and rebuke myself, and get these things out of me because I became so in love with being the paranormal investigator that I was like, oh, shoot, I think I got problems, And so you have to clear that. You have to clear all of that out of you and start all over again, and now I put up all the stops. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Will I go into those places and cleanse them? You betcha. I don't have a fear in the world about doing that. But I do fear that if somebody that's with me doesn't understand the scriptures or their God or this current age, Ephesians 6, 10 through 12 says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of this darkness in this present age. Yeah, that's in the scriptures. Yeah. And I happen to believe it. So when I go into places, I'm taking authority over those spiritual wickedness in high places, those demons, those things that don't belong there, because they could take you over. And if I consider you a friend, why would I want you, going through that? Or, so that's why I do what I do. And unlike Hollywood, there ain't no green pea soup coming at you, okay? I have more power than they have. But if you don't believe that you do, then don't try to do a demonic cleansing because then they can overpower you. How do they get into us? Fear. Anytime you're feeling fear, that's your first red flag. Something's wrong. I'm scared out of my wits. I actually saw my own spirit rise up right out of my body. I saw the back of my head take authority over that thing because we are quickly becoming who we will forever be in eternity. And God knows that. And that was almost like an omnipotent intercession of who I was and what was happening to me. I was being manipulated by the power that demon had. But God is not going to allow that to happen. I could go on. I'll stop.
No worries.
Cool.
No worries. But I'm guessing we have to schedule another date because we left out so much today that we wanted to talk about, but we're running out of time.
Sure.
Very, very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you. And I'll find out where Kevin's mom is from there in Bavaria.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah.
I'll share it with you.
Let me know. So, yeah,
okay.
Let's end this right here. Thank you again. And we will put your information in the description for sure. And please stay with us.
Well, it's just my email. I mean, really, my book isn't up yet, my Alien Healing course. Like I said, we didn't even talk about that. So that'll be up on Amazon again once I get all my new data updated. So
yeah, homepage and everything, we just pack it in.
Okay. Well, Daniel and Dustin, thank you so much for this time. I really, really appreciate being here with you.
Thank you so much. Like I said, please stay with us for 2 more minutes, okay?
Okay.